Hello and welcome to my guide to General Nazgrim on flexible difficulty. Now Nazgrim is pretty much, he's kind of simple in that he's just a one-phase fight, however there are a few mechanics and adds that you need to deal with. So yes, you deal with him, and then a variety of adds, none of which are especially threatening provided you deal with them correctly, but it's very important that you do deal with them correctly. His main mechanic is Rage, and he has 3 different stances. He's pretty much a warrior, and once he gets down to 10%, he summons a whole bunch of adds, which basically just forces you to kill him quick. Now, let's go on to the main fight and the General Nazgrim himself. So, stances. He has 3 different stances. These are Battle, Berserker, and Defensive. He goes through each of these in a 1-minute cycle, in the order of Battle, Berserker, then Defensive. In Battle stance, he gains 1 rage every second. In Berserker, he gets 25% extra damage done and taken. He doesn't regen any rage by default, but his abilities, which I'll cover later, will generate double their normal rage, so you really need to be playing very solidly in Berserker. If possible, you should save any cooldowns for this phase because they'll be 25% more effective because of that damage taken. And also in Defensive stance, which is the final one, he will take 10% less damage, but importantly, he will gain rage every time he's attacked. It is of absolute utmost vital importance that you do not attack him in Defensive stance, because if you do that, he'll get loads of rage, he'll be able to use his big scary abilities, and it will, well, just do a whole lot of damage that you just don't want on your raid. Now, let's talk about the actual abilities. So first up we have Sundering Blow. Now this is not tied to the rage mechanic, and it's the tank swap one. It does very high base damage and reduces armor by 10% for 10 seconds, and it generates about 5 rage per stack of Sundering Blow that's on the target. So that means if you have 2 stacks of Sundering Blow, then he hits you, he'll generate, I believe he'll generate 15, that's 5 rage per stack and then 5 rage for the hit that he just did. Either that or it's 10, I'm not exactly sure, but basically the more Sundering Blow you have, the more rage he gets, and also the more damage you take because of the armor reduction. Now, on normal difficulty, we swapped at 4 stacks. In Flex, you might be able to get away with a little bit more, but I'd recommend you don't, because it's all about managing that rage. The rage is very important to keep as low as you can. His second non-rage ability is called Bone Cracker. This is pretty simple. It's just a bleed that goes on a random raid member. It does 28,000 damage a second and reduces their max HP by 10. It lasts for 30 seconds, and I don't believe it can be dispelled because it's a bleed. Now, for the actual rage abilities, so these will cost rage to use, and he will always use the most expensive one that he can. After using one, he gets a 15-second cooldown period in which he cannot use another rage ability. So these are, and the first one is a Heroic Shockwave. This costs 30 rage, and it makes him leap at a player, doing heavy damage to anyone within 10 yards of that player. It then creates some lines in the floor which will explode in a few seconds. Nazgrim gets 3 rage per player hit by one of these aftershocks, and they're very easy to avoid. Now the initial leap does 210,000 damage, and the aftershocks do a more substantial 400k, so it's very important you don't stand in them. However, it's really damn easy not to stand in them, so it's all good. The next one, it costs 50 rage, and it's called Kor'kron War Banner. This will cause the attacks of the adds, which are nearby, to give Nazgrim 3 rage. Now this pretty much just must be killed instantly because you do not want him to be getting that rage. At 70 rage he will do War Song. This will do 35% of players' max health as damage to everyone in the raid, so if someone is below 35% they'll be instantly killed, so healers just want to make sure that doesn't happen. At 100 health he does Ravager, sorry not 100 health, 100 rage, he does a Ravager. Now this throws a spinning axe which flies around the room, and it stays there for the duration of the fight. You really don't want to be having these up. It does 400k damage to any players inside it, and it gives him 5 rage per second when players stand inside it. So yeah, Ravager, extremely dangerous, and it can lead to wipes if people sort of mess up with them. Now next, let's talk about the adds. These are another key part of the fight, pretty much just as important as the boss himself. So the first kind of add we're going to talk about is the War Shamans. These are definitely the most problematic and must be nuked down really quick. They drop a Healing Tide totem which will heal allies within 8 yards by 20% every 3 seconds. Now that includes Nazgrim, so if Nazgrim gets healed it kind of might be a wipe, or at least it'll screw up your sort of rotation of things, which is bad. Now this totem must be nuked down very quickly. Next he will do an Empowered Chain Heal, which heals for a base of 10% HP, with that number increasing by 50% per jump, affecting up to 5 targets. For this, you just want to keep that interrupted. Have people always with an interrupt off cooldown that can take that down. Now next, it will do Earth Shield. This will heal the target by 5% when they take damage. I don't know if he actually Earth Shields Nazgrim himself. I didn't really see that happen, but yeah, Earth Shield generally not really a problem because you can't avoid it. Next up we have Arcweavers. These do a nuke called Arcane Shock, which does 105k damage and gives the Arcweaver a buff which increases their arcane damage done by 25% per stack. Now that can actually stack up to 99 times, so these Arcweavers, they really do need to be killed right after the War Shamans, or else their damage will start killing people. Now finally the dual Magi Strike, or Magi Strike even. This will do 150k damage and applies a 30k damage per second dot to players within 8 yards. It's basically a thing on the floor, don't stand in it, and that's all you really need to know. Now next up we have Assassins. These will start off stealthed, and when they're stealthed they move 50% slower, which is nice. They'll focus on a player and try to follow them. When they attack from behind, they do a backstab which does 350k damage to the target. That'll kill you in 2 to 3 hits, so you really don't want to do that. In terms of strategy for these, you want to use any AoEs or flares or stuff like that to take them out of stealth, so that the whole raid can kill them. And finally we have Iron Blades. These do a Blade Storm and they do Last Stand when they're at, I think, under 50% health. Honestly, they're not really a problem. They're the sort of thing that you kill after everything else. Now let's talk about the actual strategy. So as normal, tanks will swap. Now when adds are spawned, they must be killed, and the priority for killing adds is War Banners, then Healing Totems, then War Shamans, then Arcweavers, then Assassins, and finally Iron Blades. Some people like to leave the Iron Blades to when Nazgrim's in defensive stance, however we didn't. We just thought it was more safe to kill them whenever they were up. It's also important that the tanks be sure that Nazgrim is never near a Healing Totem. So if you do see Nazgrim near a Healing Totem, you just need to get him out there as soon as possible so that that heal doesn't go off. Now in terms of the actual thing, Nazgrim will start in battle stance, then move to Berserker, then defensive, and change every minute. If possible, you want to use cooldowns during Berserker, and you don't want to attack him during defensive stance. Now explaining this fight just really isn't too hard because it's a single phase, and once you understand the different abilities and adds, then you kind of get it. The adds just spawn in waves, you kill them as they spawn, in the order that I said, and you'll really be fine. Now you must be very good at avoiding the rage generating abilities, because the more rage he gets, then the more dangerous abilities he'll be able to use, and it pretty much just snowballs into him having loads of Ravagers out, which really just wrecks your raid. Another thing is that when he hits Berserker stance, people need to be especially careful not to be hit by any rage regenerating ability, because he will generate double rage. Also, if say a War Banner goes down in Berserker stance, then he's getting like double rage because he's in Berserker, and the War Banner sort of makes him a lot of rage anyway, so that really does need to be killed very fast. Now finally, at 10% he will summon adds at a completely unkillable rate. You just won't be able to deal with them. So what you need to do now is just nuke them down, or nuke down the boss even. You'll want to time the DPS, if possible, so that he hits 10% during Berserker stance, which will allow the additional damage to let you kill him fast enough to survive. And this is the sort of thing where, if your group's damage is kind of low, you'll want to time it like that, but if not, you'll probably just be able to Zerg it in battle. Of course, if you're too slow, then he'll move from Berserker to defensive, and you could face problems. But anyway, that's essentially it for the fight. Hope you've enjoyed this guide and found it useful, and I'll see you next time.